This last episode of Helluva Boss introduced us to a new variant on angelic weaponry, a blessed rope, which had some devastating consequences for Stolas. So today we're going to talk about everything we know about these angelic weapons and what else they may be turned into as the show goes on. My name is Deepcut, hit that subscribe button and tell me what kind of angelic weapon you'd have in the comments down below. In Hell, the native species have various lifespans, with imps having the closest lifespan to an earthborn human, but still living a bit longer. The Earthborn sinners, however, after dying on Earth, manifest in Hell as immortal beings. They can be wounded and it will hurt them, but they can heal, and if absolutely decimated in some way, such as with Alistair eating an immortal sinner, they would still regenerate or simply respawn, which itself would be an incredibly painful process. Early on in Hell's history, things were likely a lot more chaotic. Lucifer seems happy to let the sinners regulate themselves to some degree, and in the past that would have allowed for the most brute strength killers to rise to the highest ranks in Hell. This likely inspired the early visions of Hell that humans saw as a place of torture and torment, as it was likely the other sinners that had been there longer that were torturing the newcomers before something of a functioning society could be made. It is uncertain when exactly angelic weapons were even introduced. They were brought in specifically to deal with overpopulation issues in Hell, and as such, that may have started long before it became the more developed and orderly place it is today, relatively speaking. I believe it is possible that the sinners, being immortal, could have been really dangerous to the other species of Hell, perhaps explaining why the Pride Ring doesn't seem to have a native species, whereas the lower rings of Hell all do. The sinners may have quickly wiped out any of the sentient demonic life there, even with Lucifer ruling over the Pride Ring. He probably would have been fine letting the strongest of the sinners rule back then the way he is today, just wanting the sinners to stay under control no matter what. The angelic weapons may have been introduced early on in this age to help with the overpopulation long before they started building modern societies, and as such it may explain Moxie's comment in Season 1, Episode 5 about how angelic weapons changed the way war was being waged in Hell. I imagine that the sinners may have been forced to stay in the Pride Ring by the mystical law of Lucifer to ensure that they don't overrun the inhabitants of every other ring. The exorcists would then come down from heaven each year to kill the excess sinners, people who existed only to be tortured essentially, but those angelic weapons would eventually get left behind. These weapons could then be used to wage war against the sinners and within the sinners, as the angelic weapons are the only thing capable of killing a sinner and wiping out its existence. According to early live streams with the creator VivziePop, this results in the energy of the sinners being absorbed into the parts of Hell surrounding them, explaining the eyes and mouths growing all over things in the Pride Ring. With these weapons, the imps of the Wrath Ring aren't as powerful as the sinners, but are able to kill them just as the imps could be killed by any natural means, including the unique powers that the sinners naturally have. This would allow for more ruthless and cruel overlords who have developed the most power to finally get their lives ended. From here, I imagine that a somewhat less ruthless hierarchy would have formed, one with some sense of society and structure, but with overlords that weren't modern in the way that Valentino, Vox, and Velvet were, bringing in the technology of our times. These early overlords, who I imagine to have won the earlier wars with their angelic weapons, would be toppled by Alistair, making room for a series of new overlords to come in and rise to the ranks of Hell with their modernizations. Alistair himself may have done everything he did using an angelic weapon, perhaps hiding an angelic blade beneath his microphone. With the voodoo powers that Alistair has, he'd be able to easily bring in tentacled beasts to deal with any powerful overlords, and then finish them off with an angelic spear. These spears, in addition to ending the life of a sinner, are also said to leave permanent damage, so if a sinner's arm is cut off by an angelic blade, it likely won't regrow, even if the sinner later respawns from a full-blown destruction by a non-angelic weapon. Some sinners are seen with an X over a part of their body, which is believed to either indicate a wound from their death on Earth or a wound from an angelic weapon. Vaggie is well known for the X over her eye and the angelic spear she carries around. I theorized before that she won that spear in a battle against either an angel or a sinner, perhaps even manifesting in Hell on the night of the annual extermination. Vaggie would have damaged her eye permanently when the exorcist attacked her, but won the spear in the end, and had it as a defense against anything that may come her way, demon or angel. The weapons were designed to kill sinners, but we also know they work on royalty like Stolas. If Stryker had taken his eyes out with the angelic blade, for instance, they may have never regrown, so it's a good thing Moxie and Millie made it there in time. Lower level species like imps and hellhounds or succubus are all able to be killed with regular weapons, but demons as a whole seem pretty resilient in addition to having slightly longer lifespans than humans at the lower levels. Thus, the angelic weapons, while not remotely necessary for killing a lower demonic species, likely guarantees damage and death in a way that normal weaponry in hell does not. Angelic bullets on an imp then would seem to be rather wasteful, and having an angelic blade would probably be better than any other blade in hell when fighting them or any other lower species. Additionally, the power of the angelic weapons also seems to repel demonic magic. The angelic weapons are generally spears, as we've seen, but are melted down and turned into other weapons such as guns, but in this most recent episode, we saw what was called Blessed Rope. This rope allows Striker to lasso up Stolas, which stops Stolas' powers entirely. With that in mind, I imagine the angelic weapons can be used defensively too. Throwing an angelic spear at a sinner is something they probably would not be able to deflect with their own unique magics, and I imagine if a high-level royal like Stolas is powered down by this rope, other lower-level demons may have their powers nerfed too. This would make angelic armor something that could potentially deflect demonic magic, but it may also heavily weaken the person wearing it. As such, for a demon wielding a demonic weapon, guns and blades are generally the best bet. As of now, angelic weapons are rather rare, but each year there is another extermination where more exorcists leave behind angelic spears. To some degree, this may even be seen as a good thing by them, as it means more sinners dying throughout the year, and perhaps less work for them to do each year when they return. However, it could lead to a tipping point where angelic weapons are something everyone owns. Right now, they are able to spread one angelic weapon across multiple new weapons by melting it down and mixing it with common hell metals already used for their weapons. It's been melted into guns and blades and bullets, which means some of the angelic weaponry may be lost every time a bullet is used, especially if someone misses their target and thus has to use another angelic bullet, leading to there being less and less over time as well, perhaps with the annual extermination just barely replenishing the stocks. High-level angels like Lucifer are immune to angelic weaponry and can only be smited by a higher angel, likely other seraphim. But the lower-level angels like the exorcists, who are female descendants of Adam, may in fact be weak to the angelic weapons as well. We know that the standards for heaven are so high that it's hard to get in, and perhaps even if you do get in, they are happy to kick you out. While the cherubs were seemingly cursed to walk the earth, I wonder if earthborn humans who became angels could be executed in heaven for even mild crimes. Perhaps the angelic weapons were originally used to kill their own angels, and was later repurposed to kill the sinners in hell when they started to overpopulate. This overpopulation would be seen as a problem for them if they could ever develop a way to get to heaven, something possible since heaven appears to just be some planet or moon in the sky above hell. Thus, the angels would start using these weapons to massacre sinners instead of their own people. But what do you guys think? Let me know your theories for the angelic weapons in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time.